everyone, welcome to the channel, and I am here for a discussion video for you guys, and I have a guest with me. Please welcome Jamie Horsley.
Hello everyone, how are you? Thank you Zach D for having me on the channel. We got a good discussion.
Yeah. So for this topic, this is actually a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit, and I actually thought it would be interesting to have Jamie as a guest here so that we can discuss this together, so I can hear his thoughts and he can hear my thoughts on the subject, and as well as the rest of you, and of course let us know what you think of this subject as a whole in the comments. So for this topic, we're going to be discussing a topic that, like I said, I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and the topic is, can anyone get into metal? And this is something that I have been thinking about because, well, considering that metal is one of the most diverse genres of music out there, considering that there's countless subgenres, and I feel like it's to a point now where there's very little excuse for maybe some people to try to get into certain styles of metal or certain bands because, like I said, it's very diverse. I mean, you got all these different styles, and I mean, is there anything you want to say about this in particular, Jamie?
My perspective of things, how people can get into metal, that have never heard metal before, they need to start lightly. They got to start lightly. Maybe they could listen to Breaking Benjamin or something like that, and just start lightly. Rock. So you'd start off with hard rock, or even explore rock. And when you explore rock, such as bands like Rush, then you can slowly move up towards metal. That you have to start off softly.
Yeah, that is true. I was just thinking that, like, I mean, if you're already into rock music, I think the metal bands that you eventually get into, I think that alone kind of determines of what your first metal bands will be in some circumstances. I mean, that's not all the time. Like, for example, like you said, some people could start off with a band like Rush as one of their first rock bands. And, you know, maybe they can have an easier time getting into Dream Theater because, obviously, Dream Theater and Rush are both prog bands. The same could be said for Fate's Warning and Queensryche and other progressive metal bands as well. And I know in my situation, for the longest time, I was into hard rock bands like Red and Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, bands of that variety, and I got into metalcore. And metalcore, I do feel like, is kind of accessible for people in that crowd that listen to that 2000s hard rock sound, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Metalcore is a huge gateway to metal. It is. Because in Australia, I think the primary genre for metal in Australia is metalcore. And metalcore is massive here. And a lot of people say that metalcore is the pop of metal, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so metalcore is very popular, and like you'd get more views if you're reacting to a metalcore song. Metalcore is the gateway to other metal genres, in my opinion.
I know metalcore was a gateway for me, and that kind of opened more doors for me as far as subgenres are concerned. Like, I got into melodeath, and then after that I got into thrash metal, with a few bands here and there. Like, I didn't get into like a massive amount of bands within those subgenres, but I started to have more of a liking and a tolerance to those particular subgenres, and that kind of opened many gateways for me.
Yeah, so metalcore is a good thing in metal. I don't care what anyone says, it is.
I agree.
Because it opens people up to explore metal. Because metalcore incorporates many other different genres within metal. It does. At times you can hear thrash elements in metalcore. At times some blast beats, where you hear blast beats in black metal, and at times death metal. So yeah, metalcore incorporates many other different genres within metal. And that's why I feel that metalcore is a great gateway. For a person that wants to get into metal, like you said, they could easily listen to Rush, and if they want more heavier stuff, they could listen to Dream Theater, Threshold. That's where your music taste starts to change.
Right.
And you can move on to different subgenres. Because you're hungry for more heaviness, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Another thing, too, that I was thinking of is that there's actually a lot of people that would not label themselves as metalheads. Some of these people are actually into metal bands that they don't even know about. For example, Metallica. They like bands like Metallica, even though they're not necessarily metalheads. And these people might go around saying that, well, I don't like any metal bands, but they like Metallica. But
They just like Metallica.
well, right. But the thing is,
Yeah.
too, is that they don't even realize that they're metal bands because,
Well,
like I mentioned before in other discussion videos, and the reason people might have that attitude is because a lot of people think that in order for something to be classified as metal, it has to have scream vocals in it, which is not entirely true.
It's not right. You don't hear Iron Maiden with screaming vocals, do you? Or metal doesn't have to incorporate screams or growls or anything like that. You want symphonic metal, you can go to Nightwish. Nightwish hasn't got any screams or anything like that. Metal is stigmatized. It is stigmatized and tagged a label where you listen to metal, it's going to be heavy, there's going to be screaming vocals. It's not the case. There is so much metal out there.
I also did think about the people that like rock music, or people that maybe have a low tolerance to metal, and I was just thinking about some of the styles of metal that they can get into, but they're just not willing to give them a chance just because they're under the metal genre. Just because they're under the metal genre, like, they just assume right away that they're not going to like the band. Like, they assume that take a band like Deftones, for example, a band that has been that is a new metal band, at least for their first couple of albums. Some people might assume that if they listen to a band like Deftones, they see they're under the metal genre, they might think, it's going to be, they're going to scream their guts out, is basically what their assumption is.
Or even In Flames. In Flames is a great example.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Melodeath, what are they now? They're sort of
alternative metal.
Alternative metal, incorporate elements of metalcore in some of their songs. If a person listens to In Flames like Battles and they think it's Melodeath, well, they got a whole thing coming, don't they? They'll be sadly mistaken. Yeah. So I feel that a lot of people get confused with genres as well.
I think the fact that a lot of metal bands incorporate other genres is what makes it more accessible for people that aren't into metal as well. You think about genres like country music. There's no such thing as metal country, like country that's fused with metal. Like, maybe there's country metal, like metal that's fused with country, but you'll never see that the other way around.
That's a very good genre, Zach. Yeah, we should invent that.
Metal country.
I know you love country music. Already heard. Seriously, the only sort of country metal I can think of is Me and That Man. The lead singer from Behemoth, Nurgle. He's got a country sort of metal band. Incorporating other subgenres within one genre of metal is accessible for others to move on to the next step of metal.
I was also thinking too, speaking of the whole diversity thing, I think that's actually one of the reasons why metal, I think, has some of the most elitist people in any genre of music. Not to justify people that have elitist attitudes, but in a sense I understand it, because it is hard to imagine someone who might not be a metalhead to not literally find anything in metal that they don't like, especially considering how massively diverse the genre is. I mean, you look at metal bands like Iron Maiden and you compare them to a band like Death, like two bands that are metal but very different. I mean, obviously Iron Maiden is a lot more accessible than the band Death is.
Than Death, because Death's more on the extreme metal side of things. And once you get into metal and you start to enjoy the harsh vocals, then you can move on to the extreme metal side. And we're talking about death metal, doom metal, and black metal. Which I'm going to get Zach into black metal. That's my goal this year, to get Zach into black metal and death metal as well. I'll find him some bands. I'll find him some bands. Yeah.
I'll probably like some of the early stuff, but
black metal derived from thrash metal. And even listening to Scream Bloody Gore by Def, you can tell there are elements of thrash metal within that album.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely hear some thrash in the early Death albums.
Oh yeah, of course, like Leprosy, Scream Bloody Gore. And it seems like thrash metal was once an extreme genre.
Yeah, that was like the heaviest thing around at the time in the 80s.
For sure, yeah.
I know. I get that.
I just couldn't
like
speak,
that
man.
too. I'm like, and it's not like people have to get into extreme metal either, especially since, if you don't have that much exposure to metal as a whole. Like, maybe you can either just give it time, or it's something that just might not happen. Or, you could very well just stick with, the bands that, are not extreme, and you could still be a metalhead, even if you're just into 70s and 80s bands.
And you're right.
If it's not extreme metal, you're a poser. You're not a real metalhead.
It's like, who cares if you listen to heavy metal or anything like that? You don't have to go to the extreme metal side. You don't have to listen to Cradle of Filth. You don't have to listen to Dark Throne or even Death. If you like that sort of metal that you love to listen to, have fun, enjoy it. I hate when people call each other posers.
Right. But here, like I said before about Metallica and how there's some non-metalheads that enjoy their music. It's the fact that, even bands like them are very accessible, and it makes you wonder how, a lot more people are checking out bands that are like them. Maybe like Megadeth. I mean, Megadeth, I think, is a little less accessible, a little less radio-friendly than Metallica, but
yeah, I
feel
agree.
like there's, a lot more bands that they could find, just as enjoyable as Metallica.
Like you said, it's even taken me a while for Megadeth to click with me. I don't know how a non-metal person would feel about Megadeth, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
It's quite possible for someone to get into metal. Even if they've listened to pop all their life, they can easily get into metal, I reckon.
Oh yeah, especially the bands that, aren't extreme. Because like I said, I understand that, scream vocals are not going to be for everyone. At least not right away.
Let me tell you a band that incorporates pop elements, incorporates metalcore elements as well, incorporates clean female singing along with a contrast of harsh vocals. So we're talking about Amaranth. Amaranth, have you heard of them?
I've heard of them.
So they incorporate many pop elements within their music. I feel that this is a good gateway band for someone that is into pop, that loves clean vocals from a woman. I think they would enjoy this band. And from then they can move on to Nightwish or move on to the symphonic route. If they want to explore more, they can move on to the symphonic prog and then move to the symphonic death metal side. But yeah, Zach, even I don't like some metal genres.
Yeah, I don't either.
Oh yeah, I know that. But yeah, there's metal genres that I don't like at all. I think as a person that is trying to get into metal, they got to expose themselves to metal.
Yeah,
and dabble in a bit
really
of
got to
metal.
give it a chance. I feel like some people that try to get into metal listen to maybe the first 5 seconds of a song and just immediately turn it off because they just assume what's coming next. Like, maybe they assume that, it's going to be like a bunch of screaming, or, it's just going to be heavy all the way through with no melody or whatever. I think assumptions are really the biggest problem when it comes to non-metalheads trying to get into metal.
Yeah, you're right, assumptions. Because they expect it to be all screamo and no melody, where there is nearly all melody in metal, apart from avant-garde stuff.
I used to hang out with a friend a few years ago who had very, very little exposure to metal. And I remember one day I was actually playing Soilwork, and he was rather shocked because there was clean singing in the music, and I remember him saying that he expected them to sound like August Burns Red, which is kind of surprising. So where I'm getting with that is sometimes it does have to do with some people's very little experience when it comes to metal as well. Like, for example, if someone's only exposed to a band like August Burns Red, people like them might assume that all metal bands sound exactly like them. And I think the reason
exactly.
that people are this way is because I feel like a lot of people are used to most genres of music not having that much diversity. You know what I'm saying?
Like pop is basically pop.
Right, there's not much structure or diversity to it.
I mean, get to listen to WAP.
No thank
WAP
you.
and Cardi B, Justin Bieber. Oh, how exciting.
Oh boy.
Best bloody songs on earth.
No.
Where, yeah, so it's like metal is in a different dimension than
Right.
any other genre apart from rock. Rock is awesome as well.
Yeah, rock is great.
So I feel that, yeah, rock is part of the metal genre. You have to admit it, it is.
It's kind of like metal's
Yeah.
cousin, basically.
It is, yeah. Except it's not as heavy. But yeah, like I said, metal is like in a different dimension than pop. There's just so much to explore in metal. There really is.
You'd be surprised what's out there, and you'd also be surprised of what you'll find you'll actually enjoy.
Yeah, it's like if you love girly vocals, check out the symphonic route of metal. If you like harsh, aggressive vocals, check out the metalcore, deathcore side and death metal. And if you just like dark and evil shit, check out black metal.
Another thing that I was thinking of too, actually, was when it comes to metal bands' ballads, like one band that immediately comes to mind is Dream Theater. Like I think about some of their ballads that, like, if someone who's not exposed to metal at all were to listen to a Dream Theater ballad, there's a good chance that they may not even realize that they're from a metal band. There's no possible way this can be metal, you know?
Like The Spirit Carries On.
Yeah, and Out of Reach from Distance Over Time, and Chosen from The Astonishing.
So yeah, a lot of people argue whether Dream Theater is metal or not, and I'm going to say they're metal, of course.
Yeah, I'd say they're metal. They're prog.
Like,
I always consider Dream Theater to be the heavy Rush, like just Rush but heavier.
But yeah, the problem with metal is elitism, of course. The metal community can be great, and the metal community can be terrible.
Awful.
Some people don't believe that deathcore is metal. I mean, what the hell? I just don't understand that.
Well, what is it then? It's not pop, you know?
Exactly, it's not pop. It's metal.
Country.
Yeah, so I don't understand people's logics, whole situation that metalcore isn't metal, deathcore isn't metal. You're a poser if you only listen to metalcore, deathcore. You're not a real metalhead if you're not listening to death metal, doom metal, or black metal. I mean, come on.
Right.
Just enjoy metal.
True.
Metal's a great thing.
Now, there is one last question that I do have for you in particular, and for the viewers as well. How many metal bands would you say, in your opinion, would it take for someone to classify as a metalhead? For them to be into? This is still a question that I don't even know how to answer.
If you like a particular band and another band incorporates the same sort of sounds, and you get into that band, and it's like a chain reaction.
Here's kind of my take on it. I think I figured out what I think might determine that idea. Okay, let's say someone only likes 5 metal bands, but these 5 metal bands are like all that they'll listen to. Like those are literally the only bands that they listen to. Then sure, I'd maybe say they're a metalhead. You know, I think they should get into more bands, but still. However, this person only likes 5 metal bands, but like 50 pop artists and 50 country artists, then I think that's kind of a different story. I'm not sure, actually. But that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I feel like with those people, they might say, well, I like a few metal bands, which is true.
If you don't listen to 5 bands, you've got a serious problem and you've got to explore some more. That's what we're good for, you know? Our channels are good for that. People to explore music.
Right.
I've chatted to a lot of my subs and I've gotten them into so many bands on my channel. Like, bands they wouldn't have even thought they would listen to. So that's why our channels are good. But yeah, this is my opinion. I think if you want to classify yourself as a metalhead, maybe you have to like a few other subgenres of metal, maybe. Metalcore,
Yeah, I can
maybe
agree with that.
deathcore, death metal, or something like that.
You know, a few
Just a few
subgenres.
subgenres of metal. But if you're really heavy into metalcore and you like a lot of metalcore bands, you can classify yourself as a metalhead, even though black metal fans will say, "Oh, you're a fucking poser." But, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that's why I cover everything on my channel: metalcore, black metal, doom metal. That's why I cover a lot of genres on my channel. You saw that comment on Seven Dust
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, they're not metal."
Well, so what?
I mean,
Yeah. Well, now they
so
are. They
what?
used
They're
to be new
alternative metal. They're hard
Still.
rock. Who cares? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they're still part of the metal tree, aren't they? I mean, seriously, the guitar riffs on that album were more in depth than some Melodeath albums. Had some more meat. So yeah, to go back to your question, to answer your question about how you classify yourself as a metalhead, you gotta like a few subgenres of metal, I think.
Okay, you guys. Well, that just pretty much wraps this up. This discussion video. Thank you, Jamie, for joining me on this discussion.
Thank you for having me on the channel. It was a great discussion, wasn't it? It was a really good discussion.
Thanks in advance to Jamie as well for editing this video as well, because he will be the one editing this one.
Yep, I'll be editing, and make sure you subscribe to Zach. Yeah? Subscribe to him.
Well, let me know what you guys think. Do you have anything to add on to this discussion? Feel free to let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and take care.